There have been very small moments, brief, almost unnoticeable, yet somehow they made you pause longer than usual. A feeling that was familiar and unfamiliar at the same time. A thought that came, then quietly passed, but left something behind. Pisces has always been sensitive to things that cannot be easily named, and lately, those subtle signals have been showing up more clearly. Not loudly, not dramatically, just a quiet sense, deep inside, that something is slowly shifting. The thin veil that once softened your perception did not disappear overnight. It was lifted gently, slow enough for you to see without fear, clear enough for you to understand without having to resist. As your intuition began to speak more clearly, you may have noticed something else as well. You no longer wanted to turn away from what you truly felt. And from this moment on, the journey of seeing things as they are begins. Not through sudden revelations, but through the softest signs imaginable. Lately, Pisces may begin to notice a feeling that is difficult to name, quietly appearing in everyday life. Not loud, not obvious, not arriving like a sudden awakening, just very small moments when you're doing something familiar, or sitting still in a rare pause, and suddenly you feel your inner world slow down, not to feel sad, not exactly to feel happy either, but to look a little deeper into something within. This shift does not come from other people's advice, not from someone telling you what is right or wrong. It comes from lived experience, from the moments when you choose to listen to your own emotions, instead of brushing them aside. Pisces has always been sensitive, and not yet there were times when you grew used to doubting your own intuition. Lately, that pattern seems to be changing. You no longer feel the need to gather proof for every feeling. You simply feel and allow that feeling to exist. Details that once seemed insignificant begin to take on a different meaning. A look, a sentence spoken casually, a silence that lingers longer than usual. None of these small moments offer clear answers on their own, but when placed side by side, they begin to form a clearer picture of what you are moving through. Not a perfect picture, just an honest one. This awakening does not push you to act immediately. It does not demand that you change someone else, or prove anything at all. It simply places a gentle question inside you, whether what you are feeling truly aligns with what you have been accepting. Yeah, and sometimes having the courage to ask that question is already a meaningful step forward. Pisces tends to love with the whole heart and believe with the whole soul. Because of that, there were times you overlooked early signs, not because you failed to see them, but because you hoped things would resolve on their own. This phase brings a different understanding, not to blame yourself, but to recognize that compassion also needs to be accompanied by clarity. A gentle awakening does not take away your softness. Instead, it helps you understand that kindness does not require endless endurance. You begin to see your emotions as signals, not burdens. Each moment, your heart feels heavy. Each time something no longer feels right, has a reason for being there. Moments of being alone start to matter more. Not because you want to withdraw from the world, but because you need to hear your inner voice more clearly. In those quiet spaces, intuition does not speak in words, but through sensation. A subtle nudge, a feeling to pause, a sense that you should observe a little longer. No pressure, no urgency, just gentle guidance. Pisces may notice you are no longer rushing to seek answers outside yourself. Advice and differing opinions still exist, but they no longer leave you feeling unsettled. You begin to trust that your own lived experience deserves to be heard. This does not make you rigid. It makes you steadier in a world that is constantly shifting. This awakening is not a destination. It feels more like early morning when the fog has not fully lifted, yet the light is already strong enough to reveal the road ahead. You do not need to know exactly where everything is leading, only that you are walking forward with honesty toward your own emotions. And from these very subtle signs, a new journey quietly begins to unfold. No need to rush, no need to explain, just continue listening. Because Pisces' intuition is beginning to speak in a way that is uniquely its own, gentle, and deeply real. Some truths do not arrive like a sudden impact. They do not shock you or force you to face everything all at once. They appear more like the light at the end of the day, slipping through a narrow crack in the door, just enough for you to notice that the room you are standing in is no longer as dark as it once was. Pisces may be in a moment like this now. No dramatic breakthrough, no explosive realization, just a series of small understandings, slowly coming together, like one by one. The veil that once softened your view was not torn away. It was lifted with patience, a little each day, a piece at a time, sometimes through a brief conversation, sometimes through the way someone reacts in an ordinary situation. These details may have gone unnoticed before, but now you see them more clearly, without effort. What matters is that this clarity does not come with judgment. It does not demand that you decide what was right or wrong. Instead, it offers context, an understanding of why a relationship functioned the way it did, an understanding of why certain emotions kept repeating themselves, even when you tried to change. The truth here is not meant to wound, but to illuminate. Pisces may notice that many things that once caused hesitation no longer feel as heavy, not because they disappeared, but because you are viewing them from a different distance. When you are no longer standing too close, you begin to see the full shape of the situation. There is no need to react immediately. Just observe. And in that observation, you find a rare sense of calm. This process unfolds at your own pace. No one is rushing you. No one is asking you to change overnight. You are allowed to pause at any point, to reflect, and to continue when you feel ready. What matters is that you are no longer turning away from what is present. You choose to look directly, with the softness that has always been part of you. There may come a moment when you realize that some things you once held on to out of hope are no longer necessary. Not because they were wrong, but because you have grown beyond the version of yourself that needed them. This awareness does not arrive with deep regret. It feels more like a gentle nod, a quiet acknowledgement that everything has completed its role. Pisces does not need to speak every realization out loud. Some truths are meant to be held inwardly. When you stop trying to explain yourself to others, you also stop defending your emotions from doubtful eyes. Silence in this moment is not avoidance. It is a form of freedom. As the veil continues to lift, you begin to see more clearly what you truly need in this phase of life. Not grand promises, not distant commitments. Just enough clarity to know where you stand and what is worthy of your energy. Truth arriving slowly gives you time to adjust. It allows you to feel each subtle shift without being pulled into extremes. You are still the gentle Pisces, but no longer unclear. You are still open-hearted without losing yourself in the process. And when the final layer is set aside, there is no sense of loss, only a quiet relief that is difficult to put into words, as if you have stopped viewing life through yesterday's lens. From here, the road ahead may not be fully defined, but you know this much. You are walking forward with clearer eyes and a heart that understands itself more deeply than ever before. When the veil has finally been set aside, what remains is not a clear answer to everything, but a deeper sense of how you are meant to move forward. Pisces may notice that in very ordinary moments, intuition begins to appear more often. Not as intense flashes or dramatic instincts, but as a quiet current, gentle yet steady, present even when you are not actively searching for it. There was a time when you doubted these feelings. You questioned whether you were overthinking, whether emotions were taking the lead. But lately, intuition no longer feels confusing. It arrives with stillness. When a decision settles within you, there is no rush, no tension, just a soft, clear knowing that this belongs here, and that something else can be set down. Pisces has always experienced the world through the heart. But now, those impressions no longer feel scattered. They are connected to experience, to lessons already lived, to moments when you ignored your inner voice and paid for it with long stretches of exhaustion. Intuition no longer feels vague. It becomes a quiet form of understanding, shaped by the fact that you have grown enough to listen to yourself. You may notice that you know exactly when to step closer, and when to keep distance. No complicated reasoning, just a sense that something no longer fits, and you begin to respect that feeling. You do not argue with it. You do not try to convince yourself to stay in places that slowly drain your energy. This is not coldness. It is a form of self-protection, rooted in compassion. Intuition also helps you recognize what truly nourishes your inner life. Not everything familiar is still necessary. Not every long-standing connection needs to remain unchanged. When you allow yourself to adjust your pace, you also allow yourself to grow in a way that is entirely your own. No noise, no need for approval, just a quiet sense that this feels more aligned. Pisces may notice you slow down before invitations that seem appealing, but lack depth. You are no longer pulled by outer excitement. Instead, you observe how you feel after each choice. If something leaves you unsettled for too long, you stop trying to justify it. You learn to trust that peace itself is valuable information. There are moments when intuition does not guide you toward action, but toward pause. Pause to rest. Pause to breathe. Pause to avoid reacting too quickly. In those pauses, you realize you do not need to prove your worth to anyone. Living in alignment with your inner truth is already a quiet form of courage. Intuition does not make you perfect. It simply makes you more honest. Honest about your limits. Honest about what you truly want, even when those desires do not match someone else's expectations. Pisces learns that stepping back is not always giving up. Sometimes it is choosing the path that causes less harm to the self. When intuition becomes your compass, you no longer require endless advice. You still listen, but you filter everything through your own inner sense. What feels like pressure, you let pass. What resonates deeply within, you hold, reflect on, and only then decide. And in this slower way of living, Pisces discovers a very quiet strength. Not the strength to change the world, but the strength to not lose yourself. Intuition makes no promises. It simply stays, long enough, steady enough, to remind you that you are no longer moving through life unconsciously. From here on, every step, no matter how small, carries your full presence. As things slowly become clearer, Pisces may notice something very different from past moments of realization. This time, awareness does not arrive with anger or regret. It comes in a much quieter state. You no longer feel the urge to search for who was right, who was wrong, or what deserves blame. There is only a gentle understanding that everything unfolded in the only way it could at that moment in time. In the past, when looking back on difficult experiences, you may have asked yourself what you failed to do, what you missed, or who you trusted incorrectly. Those questions were exhausting because they kept pulling you back into the past with the hope of fixing it. But now, with the veil lifted, you no longer feel the need to turn back in that way. You can look back without staying there. This calm acceptance does not make you indifferent. On the contrary, it shows that you have grown enough to understand that every experience carries its own purpose. Not to wound you forever, but to help you see more clearly who you are. It's where your limits are, and what you truly need in life. Pisces begins to understand that blame does not change the past, but understanding can change how you move forward. When you stop placing the weight of judgment on your own shoulders, you also stop placing it on others. Not because you forget what happened, but because you no longer allow it to define the value of the present. Within this clarity, there is a precious kind of stillness. A stillness where you allow every emotion that once existed to rest in its rightful place. Sadness is acknowledged, disappointment is named, but no feeling is stretched beyond what is necessary. They arrive, and then they leave, like waves touching the shore before dissolving back into the sea. Pisces may feel lighter without carrying the question of why everything happened the way it did. Instead, a different question begins to surface. What did I learn from this experience? That question does not demand an immediate answer. It simply opens a space for you to understand yourself a little more, one moment at a time. Seeing clearly without blame also changes how you view past relationships. You no longer feel the need to define them with fixed labels. Some connections were essential in one phase of life and no longer fit in another. That does not make them meaningless. They simply fulfilled their role. This sense of calm allows you to set down old burdens without feeling as though you are abandoning the past. You do not erase memories, but you no longer live inside them. You allow yourself to move forward with respect for what once was, without being bound by it. Pisces may also notice that without blame, and you become gentler with yourself. You no longer force yourself to be strong at all times. You allow yourself to feel tired when needed, to rest when needed, to remain silent when there is nothing left to say. This softness does not weaken you, it restores you. Seeing clearly without blame is a very quiet kind of freedom. It does not require recognition. It does not need explanation. All that matters is that you feel lighter when thinking about what has passed, and steadier when considering what lies ahead. And within this calm, Pisces begins to step into a new phase of life, not by denying the past, but by placing it where it truly belongs. Like a chapter that is closed, no noise, no regret. Only a deeper understanding of who you are and how you wish to live from this point forward. As clarity begins to settle in, Pisces may notice a very subtle shift in the way life is felt. Not a sense of victory, not a surge of excitement, just a lighter breath. A feeling of no longer having to strain to understand everything that is happening. You no longer need to overanalyze. You no longer question whether you are feeling things the wrong way. This clarity does not come because every question has an answer. It comes because you stop chasing answers at any cost. When something no longer brings you peace, you recognize it sooner. And when something feels gentle and relieving, you no longer doubt it. This is not absolute certainty. It is a quiet trust, just enough to keep moving forward without making life harder than it needs to be. Pisces may notice that you are no longer trapped in cycles of repetitive thinking. The questions that once kept you awake at night, that distracted you from moments meant to be calm, no longer take up the same space, not because you avoid them, but because you have seen their nature. And once something is truly seen, there is no longer a need to fight it. This sense of relief also shows up in the way you relate to others. You no longer feel the need to over-explain your emotions. You stop trying so hard to make everyone understand you. When clarity lives within, the need for external validation naturally fades. You begin to respect your own feelings enough to not require confirmation from anyone else. Holding boundaries becomes more natural, not through harsh refusals, but through a clear awareness of your own limits. You know when to stay. You know when to take a step back. Not out of fear, but because you understand that your energy is not endless, and protecting that energy is not selfish. It is necessary. Pisces may realize that choosing peace no longer brings guilt. There was a time when saying no felt heavy because you worried about disappointing others. But as clarity grows, you understand that honoring your own feelings does not mean harming someone else. You cannot show up fully if you are constantly depleted. Clarity also allows you to look back on past choices with greater gentleness. You stop blaming yourself for moments of confusion, for hesitation, for hoping too much. You understand that at the time, you did the best you could with what you knew. This awareness does not erase memory, but it makes memory lighter to carry. In everyday life, this lightness appears in very small ways. You sleep more deeply. Yeah, you are less pulled by emotions without clear origin. You spend time on what nourishes your inner life without feeling that you are missing something elsewhere. This is not withdrawal, it is conscious choice. Pisces may also notice that there is no longer a need to rush. When confusion loosens its grip, you allow things to unfold in their own rhythm. You understand that not every answer is meant to arrive right now. Some things become clear only as you continue living, continuing to experience and continuing to listen to yourself. Clarity does not bring perfection. It brings space. Space to breathe, space to feel without judgment, space to stand steadily in the small decisions of each day. And within that space, Pisces finds a very grounded kind of peace. Not glamorous, not promising, just real enough to know that you are finally living in rhythm with yourself. After moving through those earlier layers of awareness, Pisces may begin to sense a very subtle shift in the way you stand within your own life. Not a need to prove anything to anyone, not an urge to do something grand or dramatic, just a quiet sense of ease, knowing that you no longer have to chase outside voices to understand where you are meant to go. Trusting yourself does not arrive as a bold declaration. It shows up more like a new habit, formed slowly, through experience after experience, each time you choose to listen inward instead of brushing that feeling aside. You do not need absolute certainty, only enough trust to take one more step and then another, at your own pace. Pisces has always searched for understanding from the world around you. You once hoped someone would truly see you, recognize your effort, and validate your emotions. There was nothing wrong with that. But in this phase, you begin to realize that the deepest understanding has always come from within. When you truly understand yourself, you are no longer dependent on whether others do. Moving forward with self-trust does not mean you are always right. It simply means you allow yourself to be wrong without punishment. You let yourself change your mind when needed. You allow yourself to slow down when you feel overwhelmed. And you give yourself permission to move forward when you feel ready. Each choice is made with full presence, rather than fear or pressure. Pisces may notice that the road ahead does not need to be clearly defined from the very beginning. Not every step requires a map, and some paths only require feeling. When you stop seeking validation outside yourself, you also stop comparing your journey to anyone else's. You understand that every life moves at its own rhythm, and your rhythm does not need to match anyone else's to hold value. Slowness now is not delay. It is respect for your inner growth. You are no longer rushing toward a specific destination. You pay more attention to how you walk, to how you feel each moment, and it is this presence that helps you feel more connected to life as it is. Intuition continues to walk beside you, not as a command, but like an old companion who has always been there. Sometimes it whispers to keep going. Sometimes it suggests that you pause, and you learn to listen without needing to understand every reason. You trust that this listening, simple as it may seem, Owash will guide you toward the choices that fit you best in each season of life. Pisces may also feel less need to explain the path you are walking. You no longer feel compelled to justify decisions that come from within. When trust in yourself is steady enough, silence becomes a very peaceful form of confidence. Moving forward with self-trust does not guarantee that everything will be easy, but it reminds you that whatever appears, you will meet it with honesty and gentleness. You no longer turn away from your emotions. You stay with them, listen, and then continue walking. And when you look back on this entire journey, Pisces may realize that nothing was unnecessary. Every veil lifted. Every moment intuition spoke. Every time you chose understanding over blame. Each step brought you closer to yourself. In closing, this is not an ending. It is a very quiet marker, a place where you pause, take a deep breath, and realize you are no longer walking in confusion. From here, there is no need to rush. Just continue living, continue feeling, and continue trusting that your intuition, gentle as it is still guiding you toward who you truly are.